In the aftermath of the impossible victory, Admiral Sujin Han selected a small diplomatic team to board the mysterious vessel. Captain Hyunwoo Park found himself chosen for this historic meeting, along with Dr. Yoonji Kang and a handful of other officers. The shuttle bay of the Eternal Vigil was larger than most human starships. As their small craft landed, Hyunwoo noticed that the metal beneath their feet seemed to shift and flow like liquid, yet remained perfectly solid. The air itself hummed with energy that made his skin tingle. Admiral Do-yeon Kim waited for them at the bay entrance. She appeared completely human, but there was something different about her that Hyunwoo couldn't identify. Her uniform was similar to their own, but made from materials that seemed to glow with their own inner light. Her eyes held the weight of centuries, as if she had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. "Welcome aboard the Eternal Vigil," she said with a warm smile. "I know you have many questions." Dr. Yoonji Kang stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming diplomatic protocol. "Admiral Kim, our databases show no record of your ship or your service. Where did you come from?" "Walk with me," Admiral Kim replied, leading them through corridors that seemed to stretch impossibly far. The answer is more complex than you might expect. The ship's interior was a marvel that hurt to contemplate. Walls curved in directions that shouldn't exist, and windows showed views of stars that weren't visible from their current location. Crew members moved through the passages, all appearing human but wearing the same strange uniforms and carrying themselves with quiet confidence. "Your ship exists outside normal space-time," Dr. Kang observed, reading the instruments she had brought aboard. "The quantum signatures are unlike anything I've ever seen." Admiral Kim nodded approvingly. "Very good, Doctor. You're beginning to understand. The Eternal Vigil and her sister ships exist in what you might call a temporal loop. We are humanity's future, sent back to protect humanity's past." They entered what appeared to be an observation deck. Through the massive windows, Hyunwoo could see the human fleet in the distance, small and fragile against the vastness of space. But he could also see something else, glimpses of other times and places, as if the windows showed not just space but history itself. "I don't understand," Hyunwoo said. "If you're from the future, why don't our records show any trace of you?" Admiral Kim gestured toward the windows where images flickered like memories. "Because this is how it has always happened. In your future, humanity will face a choice. We could use our advanced technology to change the past, to make our own history easier and safer, or we could preserve the very struggles that made us who we are." The images in the windows showed scenes from human history, desperate battles, impossible victories, moments when extinction seemed certain, but humanity endured. In each scene, Hyunwoo glimpsed shadows at the edge of detection, hints of help that arrived at the last possible moment. "We chose preservation," Admiral Kim continued. "We learned that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our refusal to abandon each other, our willingness to stand against impossible odds for those we protect. Change the struggles and you change what humanity becomes." Dr. Kang was recording everything, her scientific mind racing to understand the implications. "So you've been helping us throughout history, but only enough to ensure we survive our darkest moments." "Exactly. We appear when extinction is certain, tip the balance just enough, then disappear back into legend. We ensure that humanity continues to exist, but we don't make existence easy." A younger officer approached, saluting Admiral Kim with obvious respect. Hyunwoo was startled to realize the man looked remarkably like Commander Yang. If Yang were decades younger and carried himself with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. "Admiral, the temporal anchors are holding steady. We can maintain position for another 6 hours before we need to return." "Thank you, Commander. Prepare the ship for departure in 4 hours." The officer nodded and left. Admiral Kim turned back to her guests with a sad smile. "That young man is the great-great-grandson of someone in your fleet. In our time, he knows the story of this battle, knows that his ancestor helped save humanity at the Kepler defense line." Hyunwoo felt a chill run down his spine. "You're saying we're your ancestors?" "Some of you, yes. The temporal mechanics are complex, but the simple truth is this. We exist because you chose to fight today instead of surrender. We are humanity 800 years in your future, and we remember every sacrifice made to ensure we could exist." Through the strange windows, Hyunwoo watched the human fleet beginning to regroup. Ships that had been damaged were being repaired by their crews. refusing to give up even after the battle was won. It was exactly the kind of stubborn determination that defined humanity. "Why tell us this?" Dr. Kang asked. "Why not just save us and leave?" "Because the loop must be completed. In your future, when humanity faces its own moments of choice, you'll remember this day. You'll remember that someone came back to help when all seemed lost. And eventually, you'll choose to do the same for your own past." Admiral Kim led them to what appeared to be the ship's command center. The bridge was vast beyond comprehension, with displays showing not just the current battle but conflicts across time and space. Officers worked at stations monitoring human colonies that wouldn't be founded for centuries. "This is our eternal vigil," Admiral Kim explained. "We watch over every moment when humanity faces extinction. We are the guardians of human civilization across all of time." As their visit neared its end, Hyunwoo asked the question that had been bothering him most. "Will we see you again?" "When you need us most, we'll be there." "We always have been." The ghost ship, the mysterious reinforcements, the impossible rescue. All the legends your species tells about help arriving at the last moment. We are all of those stories. As they prepared to return to their own ship, Admiral Kim handed Dr. Kang a small device. "This contains enough information to advance your technology by decades, but not centuries. It will help you protect yourselves better, but it won't make you soft." The shuttle ride back to the resilient Dawn was quiet, each officer lost in their own thoughts. Behind them, the eternal vigil began to glow with the same energy that had brought it through time. Space tore open once again, and the massive ship disappeared into the temporal rift. The tear sealed itself, leaving no trace that anything impossible had ever happened, except for the alien fleet scattered across the star system in full retreat, except for the human colonies that would wake up tomorrow safe and secure, except for the knowledge that humanity was part of something far older and greater than they had ever imagined. Captain Hyunwoo Park returned to his bridge, knowing that somewhere in the future, his descendants were keeping an eternal watch over time itself. The mythical warship had never been just a story. It was a promise that no matter how dark things became, humanity would never abandon its own. And in 800 years, when humanity faced its own choice between comfort and duty, they would remember this day and choose to protect their past, ensuring the loop continued forever. Space tore apart like wet paper. Captain Hyunwoo Park had seen many things during his years in the fleet, but he had never seen reality itself split open. The tear appeared directly between the human and alien fleets, a jagged wound in the fabric of space that revealed something impossible beyond. Every ship on both sides stopped firing. Human and alien crews alike stared in shock as something emerged from the dimensional rift that defied every law of physics they knew. The ship was enormous beyond all reason. It stretched across space like a floating mountain, easily 5 times larger than anything humanity had ever built. Its hull was made of some strange black material that seemed to absorb light itself, making it appear as a ship-shaped hole in the stars. "My God," whispered Chief Engineer Tae-ho Kim as he watched his sensors go crazy trying to measure the vessel. "Captain, this thing is over 3 kilometers long. The power readings are off every scale we have." Captain Jin Woo Nam, monitoring from his scout ship Swift Arrow, couldn't believe what his long-range sensors were telling him. "This is Swift Arrow to all vessels. That ship's energy signature exceeds our entire fleet combined. Whatever it is, it's not running on any technology we understand." The massive vessel moved through space with impossible grace, as if it weighed nothing at all. Weapon ports lined its surface like the scales of some ancient dragon, and energy patterns flickered along its hull in ways that hurt to look at directly. Then it spoke. The voice came through every communications channel simultaneously, clear and strong in perfect human standard with no accent or distortion. It was the voice of someone completely confident and unafraid. "This is the UES Eternal Vigil. We have the..." "Watch." Silence filled the space around the Kepler defense line. Human sailors looked at each other in wonder while alien crews whispered in fear. The Eternal Vigil was a name that appeared in no human database, but the aliens recognized it immediately. Supreme War Leader Kethavar's voice cracked as he broadcast on all frequencies. "Impossible. The Death Ship is a legend, a story told to frighten young warriors." But his words carried no conviction. Every Vorthak commander could see the readings on their sensors, could feel the terrible presence of something that should not exist. Their ancient legend spoke of a human ship that had appeared during the Zarian War 3 centuries ago. a vessel that had single-handedly destroyed an entire invasion fleet before vanishing into myth. The Eternal Vigil began to move toward the alien fleet, and its motion was like watching a mountain decide to dance. It should have been clumsy and slow, but instead it flowed through space as if the laws of physics were merely suggestions. All Vorthak ships, attack the terror ship immediately, Kethvar screamed, his alien voice high with panic. Concentrate all fire! Destroy it before it destroys us! Thousands of energy weapons struck the Eternal Vigil at once. The alien fleet poured enough firepower to vaporize a small moon into the mysterious vessel. The space around it lit up like a new star being born. When the light faded, the Eternal Vigil hung in space completely undamaged. Not even a scorch mark marred its impossible black hull. Then it returned fire. But calling it weapons fire was like calling a hurricane a gentle breeze. The Eternal Vigil didn't shoot energy beams or missiles. Instead, enemy ships simply stopped existing. One moment a Vorthak dreadnought would be there, solid and real, and the next moment it was gone as if it had never been built. Captain Hyun-Woo Park watched in amazement as the alien fleet's numerical advantage became meaningless. Jimin, are you recording this? How is it destroying those ships? I don't know, Captain. They're not exploding or breaking apart. They're just ceasing to be. My sensors can't even detect wreckage. Dr. Yoon-ji Kang's voice filled the fleet channel, her excitement barely controlled. All ships, I'm detecting massive space-time distortions around the Eternal Vigil. Whatever technology they're using, it's rewriting reality itself. The alien fleet began to break apart in panic. Vorthak ships that had seemed unstoppable moments before now fled in terror as the Eternal Vigil moved among them like a shark among minnows. But the mysterious ship didn't pursue the fleeing vessels. It only eliminated those that posed a threat to the human fleet and the colonies behind them. Within 10 minutes, the Vorthak force that had numbered in the thousands was reduced to scattered groups of ships racing for the edge of the star system. The few that remained tried desperately to surrender, broadcasting pleas for mercy in every language they knew. The Eternal Vigil ignored their surrender offers. It simply continued its methodical destruction of any ship that remained in weapon range of the human colonies. The message was clear: leave or be erased from existence. Supreme War Leader Kethvar's flagship was among the last to flee. His final transmission was filled with the kind of terror that would haunt his species for generations. The legends are true. The Death Ship lives. All vessels retreat. Tell the hegemony that humanity is protected by demons. As the alien fleet scattered to the edges of space, the Eternal Vigil turned toward the human fleet. For a moment, every human sailor wondered if they were about to meet the same fate as their enemies. Instead, the massive ship took position at the center of the defense line and simply waited. Its presence was both comforting and terrifying, like standing next to a sleeping giant that had just saved your life. Admiral Soo-Jin Han's damaged flagship limped closer to the mysterious vessel. Her voice was careful and respectful as she opened communications. Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Soo-Jin Han commanding the Human Defense Fleet. We thank you for your assistance. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. The response came immediately, calm and patient. Admiral Han, this is Admiral Do-Yeon Kim commanding the UES Eternal Vigil. We are here to ensure the survival of humanity and the protection of human space. Several human officers checked their databases immediately. There was no record of any Admiral Do-Yeon Kim in the entire history of the human fleet. No ship named Eternal Vigil had ever been built by human shipyards. Admiral Kim, Han replied carefully. Our records show no vessel by that name and no officer of that rank. Where did you come from? A pause, as if the mysterious admiral was choosing her words carefully. We come from a place you have not reached yet, Admiral. A time you have not yet experienced. We are humanity's answer to a promise made long ago. The human fleet exchanged confused glances. Captain Min Ho-jong's voice crackled over the communications. Are you saying you're from the future? Time is more flexible than your science currently understands, Captain. What matters is that we are here when you need us most, as we have always been. Dr. Yoon-ji Kang's research vessel moved closer, her sensors working frantically to understand what they were seeing. The readings made no sense. The ship existed. She could see it and measure it. But the data suggested it was somehow operating outside normal space-time. As impossible as it seemed, the legendary ghost of Terra was real. And it was human. The battle raged for 18 hours. and space around the Kepler defense line became a graveyard of burning metal and shattered dreams. Captain Hyun-woo Park watched his tactical display as one human ship after another winked out of existence. Each lost signal represented hundreds of brave souls who would never see home again. Captain Woo Jin Seo's cruiser Iron Will had been fighting 3 Vorthak dreadnoughts for over an hour. His ship was battered and bleeding atmosphere, but he refused to retreat. Over the communications channel, his voice crackled through static and determination. "This is Iron Will to all ships. We're making our final run. Tell my family I kept my promise." His cruiser turned toward the largest enemy dreadnought, engines blazing at maximum power. The Iron Will smashed into the alien ship's reactor core, and both vessels disappeared in a flash of white light that briefly outshone the nearby star. Commander Hee-jin Park led a squadron of torpedo boats in a desperate attack on the enemy command ship. Her small vessels weaved between the massive alien battleships like angry wasps, dodging energy beams that could vaporize them instantly. "Target acquired," she reported calmly. "Beginning attack run. If we don't make it back, make sure the colonies know we tried our best." Her squadron dove toward the Vorthak command vessel, missiles streaming from their launchers. The enemy ship's shields flared and collapsed, and explosions rippled across its hull. But the cost was terrible. Only 2 of her 12 boats survived the counterattack. On the bridge of the resilient Dawn, Hyun-woo felt each loss like a physical blow. These weren't just ships on his display, they were friends, colleagues, fellow humans who had chosen to stand between the aliens and their families. "Captain, we're receiving distress calls from 47 vessels," reported Jimin Lee, her voice tight with exhaustion. "Hull breaches, reactor failures, life support systems failing. They need immediate assistance. Where can we send them?" Hyun-woo asked, knowing the answer. "Nowhere, sir. Every ship that can fight is already fighting. Everyone else is either dead or dying." Chief Engineer Tae-ho Kim looked up from his damage reports. "Captain, we've lost half our weapons and our shields are down to 30%. If they concentrate fire on us, we won't last 5 minutes." The tactical situation was hopeless. The human fleet had started with 847 ships. Now fewer than 400 remained in fighting condition. The aliens still had over 3,000 vessels, and they were pressing their advantage without mercy. On the research vessel Discovery, Dr. Yoonji Kang worked frantically at her sensor console. Around her, the ship shuddered as enemy fire passed dangerously close. Her escorts had long since been destroyed or forced to retreat, leaving her scientific vessel almost defenseless. "There," she shouted to her small crew. "I'm detecting the same energy patterns I found in the historical records. Something is monitoring this battle." Her sensors picked up traces of exotic radiation that didn't match any known technology. The readings were faint but consistent, as if something massive was watching from just beyond normal detection range. "Dr. Kang," called her ship's captain, "we need to evacuate. The defense line is collapsing." But Yoonji couldn't leave now, not when she was so close to solving the mystery. Her fingers flew over the sensor controls, trying to isolate the strange signals. The alien communications she had been monitoring were becoming more frantic. Vorthak commanders were reporting shadow contacts on their long-range sensors. The flagship Terran Unity suddenly lurched as enemy fire overwhelmed her shields. Admiral Soo-jin Han's command center filled with smoke and sparks, but her voice remained steady over the fleet communications. "All ships, this is Admiral Han. We've taken critical damage and are losing power. Commander Jae-sung will assume fleet coordination from the Steadfast." Hyun-woo watched in horror as the massive flagship began to list, atmosphere streaming from dozens of hull breaches. The Terran Unity had been the symbol of human naval power, and now she was dying. The Vorthak fleet sensed victory and pressed forward aggressively. Their supreme war leader Keithfar broadcast another surrender demand, his alien voice filled with cruel satisfaction. "Humans, your largest ship burns and your fleet scatters like frightened insects. Submit now, and we will allow your species to serve the hegemony as laborers. Continue fighting and we will exterminate every human in the galaxy." The human response came not from any admiral or commander, but from ordinary sailors and soldiers throughout the fleet. Voices from dozens of ships filled the communications channels with the same simple words: "Never surrender. Never give up. Never abandon our people." It was exactly the kind of stubborn, impossible courage that made humans both admired and feared throughout the galaxy. Even facing certain death, they would not quit. But courage alone couldn't stop energy cannons or repair damaged hulls. The defense line continued to crumble as more human ships fell to the alien assault. Then something extraordinary happened. Every human vessel simultaneously received a transmission on an ancient frequency that hadn't been used in over 2 centuries. The message was brief, transmitted in old-style military code that few people even remembered. All human forces, this is Guardian 1. Message begins. Hold the line. Help is coming. Repeat, hold the line. Help is coming. Message ends. The transmission cut off as suddenly as it had begun, leaving the human fleet staring at their communications displays in confusion. Jimin, can you trace that signal? Hyunwoo demanded. I'm trying, Captain, but it's like nothing I've ever seen. The transmission came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The encryption is definitely human, but it's centuries more advanced than anything we have. Weapons specialist Sora Choi checked her targeting systems. Captain, that frequency. My grandmother worked on communications during the colonial wars. She told me stories about emergency channels that were supposed to be used only in the most desperate situations, Dr. NG. Kang's excited voice suddenly filled the fleet channel. Captain Park. All ships. I'm detecting massive energy buildups in empty space. Whatever's been watching this battle is about to do something. The alien fleet had heard the mysterious transmission too, and their response was immediate panic. Vorthak commanders began shouting orders in their clicking language, and several enemy ships actually broke formation and began retreating toward the edge of the star system. Supreme War Leader Kethvar's voice boomed over all frequencies, but for the first time it contained a note of uncertainty. What trickery is this? There are no human reinforcements. Our scouts have confirmed this, but the humans didn't know any more than the aliens did. They could only watch their sensors and wonder what kind of help could possibly arrive to save them from this impossible situation. In the darkness of space, something ancient stirred, something that had been waiting for precisely this moment, when humanity faced extinction and refused to surrender. 3 weeks later, the human fleet gathered at the Kepler defense line like a pack of wolves preparing to face a stampede of elephants. Captain Hyunwoo Park stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display show 847 human ships spread across space. It was the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled, and it was still pitifully small. The flagship Terran Unity sat in the center of the formation, her massive bulk bristling with weapons and communication arrays. Admiral Sujin Han commanded from her bridge, coordinating the desperate defense. Hyunwoo had served under her before and knew she was the kind of officer who would rather die than abandon the colonies behind them. Hyunwoo, you old space dog. The cheerful voice belonged to Captain Minho Jung, commanding the destroyer Burning Phoenix. His ship hung in space nearby, looking eager for a fight despite the impossible odds. Minho, still pretending this is all some grand adventure. Hyunwoo replied over the communications channel, Of course. What else would you call it when humanity decides to punch a giant alien armada in the face? Minho's laughter was infectious, but Hyunwoo could hear the tension underneath. They had been friends since the Naval Academy, and Minho always joked when he was nervous. The research vessel Discovery floated near the fleet's edge. Her sensors pointed toward deep space. Dr. Yoonji Kang worked on her bridge. Surrounded by alien databases and historical records, she had become obsessed with the ghost of Terra stories, spending every free moment trying to solve the mystery. Captain Park, came Dr. Kang's voice over the fleet channel. I need to show you something. Can you spare a few minutes for a data transfer? Hyunwoo nodded to his communications officer. Put it through. Doctor. The main screen filled with alien text, charts, and what looked like archaeological records. Dr. Kang's voice explained what they were seeing. These are reports from 12 different species, spanning over 3 centuries. All of them describe encounters with a massive human warship that appears during major battles. The descriptions are remarkably consistent. A black ship, larger than anything humanity has supposedly built, with weapons that seem to bend the laws of physics. Chief Engineer Tae-ho Kim whistled softly. 3 centuries? But humans have only been in space for about 200 years. Exactly, which means either these aliens are lying, or there's something about human history we don't know. Dr. Kang highlighted sections of the alien reports. Look at this Corvani account from the Zerion War. They describe a human ship that ate light itself, and made their battle fleet vanish like smoke and wind. Weapons specialist So-Ra Choi leaned forward. "Doctor, with respect, maybe these are just stories that got mixed up over time. You know how legends grow? That's what I thought too until I found this." The screen changed to show intercepted Vorthak communications from just hours ago. Their fleet commanders are issuing specific orders about the Ghost of Terra. They're telling their captains to watch for reality distortions and to flee immediately if the death ship appears. Commander Yang frowned. "They're giving tactical orders about a mythical ship? Not just tactical orders. Listen to this." Dr. Kang played an audio file of alien voices speaking in their clicking language, with human translation appearing as text. Supreme War Leader Kethvar himself issued this command. "All vessels will maintain formation and attack as planned. But if sensors detect the terror ship of the Hairless Ones, all units are authorized to retreat without shame." The ancestors remember what happened at Xerion. The bridge fell silent. Even the alien Supreme Commander was afraid of this ghost ship. "There's more," Dr. Kang continued. "I've been analyzing the battle reports from every major human conflict. In 17 different battles where humanity faced total defeat, there are gaps in the records, unexplained victories, enemy fleets that suddenly retreated for no apparent reason, weapons readings that don't match anything in our arsenal." Hyun-Woo stared at the data scrolling across his screen. "You're saying this ghost ship has been helping us all along and we never knew about it?" "I'm saying the evidence suggests something has been protecting humanity during our darkest hours. Something our enemies know about but we don't." The fleet's sensors suddenly screamed warnings. Long-range detection showed the Vorthak armada dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the star system. The enemy fleet was enormous. Thousands of ships stretching across space like a metal storm cloud. Admiral Sujin Han's voice filled every communications channel in the human fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Han. The enemy has arrived in greater numbers than intelligence predicted. Current count shows over 4,000 hostile vessels approaching our position." Hyun-Woo felt his stomach drop. 4,000 ships. They were outnumbered nearly 5-1. "However," the Admiral continued, "we have something they don't understand. We fight not just for victory, but for the families behind us, for the children who depend on us, for the future of humanity itself. We hold this line no matter the cost." The Vorthak fleet commander's voice boomed across all frequencies, speaking in heavily accented human standard. "Humans of the dying species, you face the might of the hegemony. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Continue this foolish resistance and we will hunt down every human colony in the galaxy." Admiral Han's response was immediate and typically human. "Unknown alien commander, humanity has a message for you and your hegemony. Come and take it." The alien response was a wave of energy weapons fire that lit up space like deadly fireworks. The human fleet returned fire with everything they had. The battle for humanity's survival had begun. Captain Minho Jong's burning Phoenix dove into the enemy formation, her weapons blazing. "For Earth. For the colonies," he shouted over the communications channel as his ship engaged 3 Vorthak cruisers at once. On the Discovery, Dr. Yoon-ji Kang watched her sensors as the battle raged around them. Strange energy readings flickered at the edge of detection, patterns that didn't match any known technology. "Captain Park," she called urgently, "I'm detecting anomalous readings from deep space. Something's out there." But Hyun-Woo was too busy fighting for his life to respond. Enemy ships swarmed around the resilient Dawn, their weapons hammering his shields. The human fleet was brave, but courage couldn't overcome such terrible odds. As the first human ships began to explode under the alien assault, some of the Vorthak commanders reported strange sensor ghosts at the edge of their detection range. Their gunners nervously scanned space, watching for something their legends told them to fear. The Ghost of Terra remained a legend, but legends have power. And sometimes, when people need miracles most, the impossible begins to seem possible. Captain Hyun-Woo Park stared at the holographic star map floating above his command chair. The bright dots showed human colonies scattered across this part of the galaxy like tiny islands in a vast dark ocean. Each dot represented millions of people who trusted the human fleet to keep them safe. The bridge of the UES Resilient Dawn hummed quietly around him. It was not the biggest ship in the human fleet, but it was his ship. Hyun-Woo had commanded her for 3 years now, patrolling the outer edges of human space where pirates and raiders like to hide. "Captain, I'm getting something strange on the communications array." said Jimin Lee from her station. She was young but smart, fresh from the Communications Academy. Her fingers danced over the controls as she tried to clean up whatever signal she was receiving. Hyunwoo walked over to look at her screen. Lines of alien text scrolled past, mixed with static and interference. What language is that? Vorthak, sir. But it's heavily encrypted. I'm only catching fragments. Jimin frowned at her displays. They keep mentioning something called the Ghost of Terra in their transmissions. From across the bridge, Chief Engineer Tae-ho Kim laughed. Ghost of Terra? What's next, the boogeyman of space? Weapons Specialist Sora Choi looked up from her console. Maybe it's some kind of new human weapon they're worried about. Or maybe they're just trying to scare each other, said Commander Dongmin Yang as he approached. Yang was older than the rest of them, with gray hair and scars from the border wars. If anyone would know about secret weapons, it would be him. Jimin shook her head. No, sir, this sounds different. They're not talking about it like a weapon. They're talking about it like a legend. Something that shows up when humans are about to lose everything. Tae-ho snorted. A magic spaceship that saves the day? Come on, Jimin. Even the aliens aren't that stupid. Actually, Jimin said, pulling up more data. I've been cross-referencing our xenological databases. The hegemony species, the Corvani, even the Zeltak traders. They all have similar stories. Something about a mysterious human ship that appears out of nowhere during major battles. Hyunwoo studied the alien text on the screen. He could not read it, but he had seen enough Vorthak communications to recognize when they were afraid. These transmissions had that particular rhythm that scared aliens used. What do our own records say about this Ghost of Terra? He asked. That's the strange part, Captain. There's nothing in our databases. No ship by that name. No records of any vessel matching the descriptions in the alien reports. Jimin's fingers moved quickly over her console. But the aliens have been talking about it for over 200 years. Yang crossed his arms. 200 years of alien ghost stories. Probably just war propaganda that got out of hand. Maybe, Hyunwoo said. But something about the fear in those alien transmissions bothered him. The Vorthak were not known for being scared of anything. The communications panel beeped with an urgent message. Jimin's face went pale as she read it. Captain, priority alert from Fleet Command. The Vorthak hegemony has mobilized their entire fleet. Intelligence estimates over 3,000 ships moving toward the outer colonies. The bridge fell silent. 3,000 ships. The entire human fleet barely had 1,000 vessels, and most of those were cargo ships with guns bolted on. Where are they heading? Hyunwoo asked, though he already suspected the answer. The Kepler sector, sir. Straight for New Seoul, New Busan, and the mining colonies. Jimin's voice was steady, but Hyunwoo could hear the worry underneath. Hyunwoo felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Those colonies held over 50 million people. Civilians, families, children who had never seen a warship except in holovids. Time to intercept? If we leave now and push the engines, maybe 18 hours to reach the Kepler defense line. Do it. Signal all ships in the sector to converge on Kepler, and send word to the colonies to begin evacuation procedures. As his crew rushed to carry out orders, Hyunwoo stared at the star map again. The human colonies looked even smaller now, more fragile. 3,000 Vorthak ships could sweep through the sector like a storm, destroying everything in their path. The resilient Dawn shuddered as her faster-than-light engines engaged. Around them space twisted and the stars stretched into lines. They were racing toward what might be the last battle humanity would ever fight. Captain, Jimin said quietly, I'm still monitoring the alien channels. They're talking about the Ghost of Terra more now. Some of their commanders are actually issuing warnings to watch for it. Warnings about a ship that doesn't exist? That's what I don't understand. They're acting like it's real, like it's something they've actually encountered before. Tae-ho shook his head. Maybe they want to believe in ghost ships. Makes them feel better about running away from fights. But Yang was thoughtful. Or maybe there's something we don't know about our own history. Wars have a way of burying secrets, especially the kinds of secrets that might cause problems later. Hyunwoo nodded. Every military had classified projects, experimental weapons, ships that never made it into the official records. Could there really be some kind of secret human vessel out there? Jimin, when you have time, dig deeper into those alien reports. Cross-reference them with any human naval records you can access, even the classified ones. Already on it, sir. Though I should warn you, some of these stories are pretty wild. The aliens describe a ship that can appear and disappear at will, with weapons that can destroy entire fleets. Sounds like typical alien exaggeration to me, Sora said. Every species talks about their enemies like they're magical. Makes losing battles easier to explain. Hours passed as they traveled toward the Kepler sector. More ships joined them along the way. Destroyers, cruisers, converted freighters, even a few civilian vessels whose captains refused to run. It was not nearly enough. The enemy fleet reports kept coming in. 3,000 ships had become 3,500, then 4,000. The Vorthak were calling in every ally, every mercenary group, every species that had a grudge against humanity. "Captain," Yang said during the night shift, "I've been thinking about those ghost ship stories. What if they're not entirely made up? You think there really is a secret human warship out there? I think humans are full of surprises. Always have been. Maybe somewhere in our past, someone built something the rest of us never heard about. Something for emergencies." Yanwu looked at the tactical display showing their small fleet racing toward impossible odds. If that's true, now would be a good time for it to show up. Yang smiled grimly. "Maybe it will, Captain. Maybe it will." As the resilient Dawn and her sister ships flew through the darkness toward the greatest battle in human history, alien voices continued to whisper about the ghost of Terra. And deep in her communications array, Jimin Lee wondered if legends sometimes had a way of becoming real when people needed them most.